All right, good morning. This is the Site Plan Review Committee meeting for July 10th, 2018. Members present today are City Assessor Dan Branziforti, Police Chief James Guido, Code Consultant Pat DeMarco, Building Inspector Ben DeCristoforo, Frank Stringy, City Planner, Plumbing Inspector Mark Block, and DPW Superintendent Paul Argenzio. First item on the agenda is somebody wanted to come before us. It was a late communication. Quick question regarding what property? Driveway permit? Okay. Have a seat. What's the address?
57 Jones Road.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a single family house, and it's just me, my husband, 2 kids, and we don't have a parking. You know, we didn't know when we built the house. We have a small space in front of the house, like with the car, and there's no parking at that block. You know, everybody parked in front of the house. Multi-family houses. They all park. Every house has a 3-4 car. So we have to always park. He works at night. I work in the morning.
Okay.
And every time we have to park 3 blocks away from our house. There's any way how we can get the parking in front of houses. We have single family houses.
I can come go down and inspect that.
Yeah.
Usually driveway permits just go to the DPW.
Yeah,
You don't
but
have
so,
to.
Paul, I just went over the building.
Yes.
I think they already went down.
That's the house, yeah.
So man,
I
like
swear- I
explained,
swear yesterday I
parking
came
in
in-
front of the house is not allowed per ordinance. If you're looking to seek relief, I don't even know if you can dimensionally meet the requirements.
I don't think there's some magic or I'm not gonna park in front of the house. Maybe this one payment thing, you know, I can just park the street. It's really difficult, I swear to God. And I don't have the money to sell, buy another house, you know. And I like the area, I like the city, and we both working, you know. I have 2 little kids.
So ma'am, I understand that unfortunately there's a city ordinance that says you cannot park in the front of your house.
You
Yeah.
know.
So if you'd like to seek relief, you have the ability to get a plot plan, submit a plot plan showing what you're proposing, and then you can seek relief from the zoning board of appeals.
What is that's like, how we do that process?
You can go to the building department. They'll tell you what the process is. Okay?
Or maybe what that side may take, I don't know, I'm just looking for all the options,
So
you know.
what you can do is you can come over to the building department and discuss it.
And
Okay?
straight, I'm not gonna have big cars, small car, just for me, not 2 cars,
Ma'am,
we
I-
have only 1 car.
I understand. I understand. Okay.
Okay?
So-
You go to the building department.
Uh-huh.
Maybe
The
after this
department,
meeting.
and what you
Yeah.
have to say for that.
They'll explain the process
Just
to
come,
you.
come in tomorrow morning at the same time as you did today, and I'll discuss it.
Okay, sure, thank you so much
Okay.
for your help.
Okay.
Thank you, I really appreciate all of you, thank you.
Go up.
Okay, site plan for 28 Bay Road.
Morning. Morning.
How can we help you?
I have a property on
Not here for me.
28.
Go ahead.
All right, I have a property on 28 Bay Road. I purchased this property back in 1983, and it was an existing 4-family, and I wanna try and get 4 certificates.
Did you,
So, yeah.
Do an archives check?
We did a legal search, and it's coming up as a 3.
3-family? Okay. So his certificate of occupancy for 3-family.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, the legal search came up as a 3. I'm not quite sure if there was an actual certificate.
Okay.
I have actually a lot of documents and receipts going back to 1983. I can show that I made my attempt, and I didn't have the money to go forward because I needed to get a special variance. But back in 1990, for example, here I applied for a certificate of occupancy, and one of the things I tried to attempt is that the city assessing department got me down as a 4-family.
So, sir,
Uh,
we did look at the
no, do-
documentation, and again, your legal occupancy is a 3. You never moved forward with legitimizing the 4.
Yes.
So the process, again, now is coming before site plan review, get a rejection letter, and then go in front of city council.
Okay.
Of the city council.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody want to see this?
The chief, you put a lot of work into that.
Yeah,
I worked hard.
yeah.
It's on the doors, number 28, but on the taxi,
Just to identify it.
oh, there's actually a picture of it, right? It's 28,
You have the parking there.
this street, off-street parking spots.
Required, actually, with the eight.
Oh, well, I know,
Yeah.
you need it 1.5 per unit, but this is a pre-existing building that's been, I purchased this property as a 4-family, and I have the settlement closing sheet on the last page.
I know that, but it's,
I'm just trying to do my best here. It's
When did you purchase the building?
1983.
I understand that, we denied one last night on Beach Street. 6 family, we were
Yeah.
gonna do an 8.
Yeah.
Had no parking whatsoever, so we denied it. And, we keep allowing all of these things in the city. This is part of the problem. That's not your fault. I'm sure you purchased it, you felt you were doing the right thing.
So Frank, plot
Yeah,
plan.
yeah, so we need a certified plot plan.
Well, these are mine down into scale. and I do it
You're
myself.
submitting something to us, so we need something, so we can,
Sounds from an engineer.
we need to deny it. Yeah,
You need a land survey to submit an existing plot plan of what's there and what's established for parking.
Of the land,
Of the land, not the interior space of the
Oh,
structure.
I got that,
Okay,
I already
yeah.
have that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so why don't you come back next site plan and submit
Okay,
that
I have, it's
documentation?
a certified thing.
we need that certified plot plan
Is
showing
it-
your
is it a
parking
current plan, sir?
spaces.
Yes,
Is it current?
yes,
Okay.
yes, there hasn't been any changes.
Yeah, but no, when was this?
Last time, oh,
Yeah, it's gotta be done.
about 10 years ago.
Yeah, you're gonna have to request a new one.
I need to
survey.
update it?
You need an updated one, correct.
Okay.
Okay?
all right, Okay,
All right, good luck.
thank you.
So you give him a letter of denial, and then he goes and finds,
No,
not
he's
yet.
gonna have to come back here.
Yeah.
first.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So put him to the next.
Yep.
All right, so I need time to get,
So again, get your documentation together and then just apply online for site plan review hearing, and then you proceed after.
but I need to hire someone to do a
You need
plot plan.
yeah, you need a certified land survey,
Okay,
correct.
all right.
Just so you know, all the apartments would have to be brought up to code. The
Yep.
full building would have to be sprinkled as a 4-family. So
It's 3 stories.
it
Well-
doesn't matter, as a 4-family, it would have to be sprinkled.
So, yeah, the first step is getting by the zoning end of it. Once, if you happen to get by the zoning end of it, then we'll deal with the code issues.
Code issues, so it's gonna be costly. The fire department's gonna require that sprinkler systems be installed. Yeah.
What I suggest is you're gonna have to have a licensed contractor pull the permit anyway, maybe have them
I
survey.
am a licensed contractor.
Okay, then you can survey and figure out what you need relative to satisfying the code requirements. Now, you're bringing that whole building to a different use,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
okay?
whole new use category, triggers a whole new set of
Put the
regulations.
school on the path.
All right, good luck.
Okay,
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chief? What time do you think you'll be back for your? I want to talk to you. No? Oh, good. Okay. I'm gonna come by with.
site plan for 21 Revere Beach Boulevard, 127 unit mixed-use development. So they were before us back in, I believe, May. The site plan review letter has been issued, but there's a follow-up requirement for update, for revised landscaping plan and building materials plan to be approved by site plan review committee. This is Revere Beach Boulevard, 2021, next to Atlantic Towers. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for the time today. So one additional thing we wanted to mention too, we were asked to go in front of the Revere Beach Design Review Board as an advisory position to kind of get their thoughts on design. So we did do that. And so what you're seeing here now has been vetted with them. We've taken their input and incorporated it here. So the hope was to bring you through the design and discuss all the necessary points you had.
So this design reflects the design review board comments?
We had, as you know, we had a meeting with Design Review Board and talked through our approach. We haven't received any formal comments,
Oh,
but,
that's correct. It's not a formal requirement.
right. So what we have here is progress from the last time that we talked. And really, when we talked last time, there were a couple of things that really needed more development. So we had shown the building with some variation in the color and the siding, and we have some detail on that today. The base of the building, both at the retail elements on Revere Beach Boulevard and at Ocean Avenue. We have some detail updates on that today, and we also have some updates on the landscape, which is much more developed at this point.
Okay.
I think we can kind of go through most of these early pages. If you want to stop at the first page of elevations and take a look at the color study and the planning study for the retail spaces on Revere Beach Boulevard. Those weren't quite so developed the previous time we came in, and we actually worked on those, and we came up with the idea of doing a kind of a garage door approach here that would allow those spaces to be active in the summertime, and then in the wintertime we would use a graphic to kind of close those up so they become kind of the art element that we had been talking about as part of this project. So those are the spaces to the south, to the north, excuse me, of the garage entry. On the south side, you have the residential entrance and amenity spaces, the lobby. And at the very north part of the building is the restaurant space. The pop-up cabanas, as we're calling them, there's 4 of them, and they vary in depth to the deepest being about 12 feet deep. Again, they're seen as kind of seasonal retail. And if you look 2 more pages forward, you can see a proposed rendering of what we're trying to do there. Go back 1 page, Benny. So this is the summer condition first, which would have these fold-up garage doors that would act both as an awning for the retailers to allow them to spill out to the sidewalk space, but also, you know, it also opens their space up to the sidewalk. The next slide page shows the winter condition, and it's a generic graphic right now, but we see this vinyl graphic on the back side of the glass doors in the wintertime to close off those spaces, but to still provide something active and visually interesting from the street. Because we know that the spaces are used a lot, the street's used a lot in the wintertime as well. The next page is actually just kind of an illustration of the inspiration for the color studies that we've done. We did spend a bunch of time on this and looked at the materials that we'd be using, the fiber cement siding materials, and you can see some color studies that we did following that, which are the actual real paint colors and real material colors. Then the sheet following that shows the development of the elevations. We've always had this idea of changing the hues of the color, again, kind of inspired by the colors of the beach. And we have done some studies of pretty detailed studies. If you continue on, the block color study that you see on that page is actually the real material size with the real material dimensions and how we would actually develop that change of those colors. We've been through pricing with this and have worked with the contractors as well to understand the impact. So this is something that we've developed beyond just an initial idea. This is something we feel confident that we can achieve.
So David, how would you apply that? Would a portion of it be sprayed, or how would you achieve that? That's-
All of the materials would be pre-finished,
Oh, really?
and the custom color on the finish, there is an upcharge to it, but it's not so much so
But it
that,
wouldn't be applied on site?
no,
Okay.
no. And it's, you can see it, if you look closely, you can see it's
Yeah.
really kind of a
Yeah.
pixelated approach.
Yeah.
But when you cut the windows out of it and you actually look at it
Can't tell.
you can't really tell,
Yeah.
so.
So it's basically each clapboard has its
Yeah.
own
It is, yeah, yeah,
color scheme.
correct. The base of the building, you know, we are, you know, finalizing the details of this right now, but we had looked and, you know, your commentary about the CMU, the two-story CMU, we understand that that's not, it was, we were trying something that didn't quite, hadn't gotten to the full development of that yet. So we've looked at splitting that into two pieces to bring the height of that down and the scale of it for Ocean Avenue. Right now, we have a couple of different options for the upper portion, which would be either a graphic scrim, or which would change out every 7 to 10 years, or a perforated metal panel. Again, both of those are in pricing, and will be developed in the final documents. But it's really the important thing here is this idea of breaking down the scale of that wall, and it's consistent on the smaller building as well.
And then, David, you also brought the height of this wall down and created balcony space above as well, too.
We did, yeah. So we need about 15 feet floor to floor for the restaurant and for the amenity space. We don't need all that for the garage. So some of the units on the Ocean Avenue side face will have what we're terming kind of a loft feel to them. They'll have some steps down into those units. They'll get an additional height there, and they'll get some outdoor balconies. And that allows us to actually lower that wall by about 3 feet. And that's reflected here in these elevations.
It also makes those units pretty desirable, being low-level units, facing on the other side of the building.
Balcony.
So it's kind of an interesting way of doing that.
Good idea.
So I don't know, Frank, if we had anything else really that was open on the architecture side.
So just trying to get a scale of this. So it's almost like a double wall. I mean, the
Both of those are about,
textured base is, what's the height of that?
it's about 10 feet.
10 feet. Then you go to
Another, it's
Like
between
you call it
11 and 12
perforated
feet at
screen,
the upper.
graphic screen.
Yeah, it's 11 to 12 feet as we're finalizing all those details.
Yeah,
Try to get a better view on this right here. This is
Right.
yeah. So there's a ledge between the two. It's not like it's all one surface.
Correct,
going
it's
to
not all
another.
one surface. Yeah, we actually have, so recognizing that we have to find places for gas meters and other utilities on this building, the current plan actually pushes the parking in a little bit at Ocean Avenue so that we can get some space for the gas meters that could be separated off from the sidewalk. And we're planning on working with National Grid to screen those as well. So there'll be some kind of gate system there, so they'll have access to their meters, but it won't be an eyesore on the public right away.
And what's the width of that sidewalk on Ocean Avenue presently?
Presently, there is no sidewalk there, so what we're showing, and actually Becky's probably better. Well, I think didn't we add a planting strip too?
Yes.
Where is Becky?
Becky, why don't you come up?
Yeah, have a seat.
Have a seat.
There's plenty of seats. Just
Yeah,
pull a seat up. Pull a chair up.
Talking about Ocean Avenue on this side.
Yeah, the sidewalk dimensions.
So we've left a minimum of 5 feet clear at all of the sidewalks. So I believe that what you're seeing here is 5 feet of sidewalk with 3-foot planter strips on either side. So total of 11.
And that's all within the right of way? Or does that take some of your property?
That's all within the right.
A little bit of it is on our property, but most of it is within the right of way. And we do have, we have had preliminary discussions with DCR about adjusting the streets in this area, about doing the curb bump outs, both for pedestrian safety crossing the street and also to kind of capture some parking areas along there. They have been receptive to that. We have to go back to them and work through this, but we have done this with them on the Waterfront Square property.
Yeah, I think this is the property line here, so it's mostly within the right of way.
Okay. I just want to make sure we can achieve everything you have within the right of way. Sidewalk, the planting strip. Now, on that first floor parking wall, are there openings within that?
Yeah, there are. I mean, obviously, we have, this is in a flood zone, and that area is below the flood elevation. The upper level parking is not, but the lower level parking is, and we're going to work out ways to get the floodwaters out of there. It's not actually a very heavy requirement. It's only about 1 square inch per square foot of space, but we'll exceed that and make sure that the water can flow.
Is that gonna be achieved with breakaway panels or pure openings?
Probably pure openings, yeah. It is an open garage at this point. We had looked in the past at whether we would do a fully enclosed garage. It's an open but ventilated garage because we won't get the full ventilation because we want to keep active uses on Riviera Beach Boulevard. And half of the garage at the lower level at Ocean Avenue has a retaining wall.
So this perforated metal screen, that's just in some areas, correct?
That's the idea.
It's between the concrete masonry and the panels?
Concrete masonry at the lower level,
Yep.
just really for durability,
Yep.
and then the perforated metal up above.
Oh, above it?
Yep. And correct, and the gates and the screening we talked about in front of the gas meters would be the perforated metal as well.
So how large would these openings be on that first level? Because they almost look like they look pretty large, so they would require screens also.
They will require security screening,
Yes.
yeah.
So you can try to mirror this same perforated screening that you have above, below in those openings? Or are you talking about a whole different?
I don't know that
style
we've
of
decided that at this
Yeah.
point, but it's a possibility. I don't think it'll be the same exact detail, though. Really, the upper screen is more of a graphic. It's the idea of trying to get a graphic up there. The lower pieces are more openings to give the wall some interest. Some of those are not full openings. Some of those are just recesses in the wall.
Do you have a graphic that shows the finished look of that wall, the lower wall? Have you provided anything?
Not at this point,
I
no.
know you were looking at a number of variety of treatments for that.
We're still in the
Haven't
process
decided.
of looking at different ways to deal with it. It is, we do think it's a CMU wall. We are trying to get as much planning in front of that as possible. We've looked, through the use of our models, we've looked at street views, sort of rough street views, and realized that it's not something you're going to see. You'll see it as you're walking down the street. You won't see it so much from a car because of the street trees. Since we've been able to get the planter strip in there, we're feeling like a lot of that experience on there is going to be the landscape.
In the front of the building, is this the garage right behind here?
No, that's that's actually the gym in that space in the
So
the
that's
main
all
lobby.
amenity area, okay.
So if you go to, well, you can see it here, right?
Oh, okay.
So we've wrapped the gym and wrapped the garage in that area with it's a long, kind of narrow space, but we think it'll work well for the gym. And that's a couple feet above the sidewalk elevation, so there's some level of separation from the street.
And that's the retail space above it, correct?
The retail space
The restaurant?
is actually at the northern end of the building. It's the blue space.
Oh, the other side.
I got a quick question. On these cabanas that you're leasing, is there gonna be like bathrooms in there?
No, the thought is that,
So, are you gonna provide bathroom
No, it's on the
facilities
West
for
Street side.
all those of this?
We'll end up providing, yes, we will.
Ramp coming up here, the outdoor cafe areas.
that's a good, yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah,
I don't know whether us, because I have a store.
It's like 1.3, I think. Just 200 for both Ocean Avenue.
yeah, we may be able to actually, depending on how we develop it, we may be able to do something that's accessible back from the back of the garage in the back of the restaurant space as well.
Yeah, we'll make,
mean, it's only, I'm trying to remember the numbers, it's only about 1,000 square feet total, so they're not big.
Total for all of us.
Total.
Retail space, it's not 5,000.
1,000. Yeah, the retail space is about 3,500 square feet. The restaurant space.
I'm not talking,
Yeah.
that's not the corner,
Yeah,
but I'm talking about.
yeah, they're only about 1,000. Yeah.
I mean, the idea is that it's relatively seasonal.
No, I understand, I'm just thinking that if you have a space you're leasing,
Yep.
it should have some sort of plumbing facilities. But I think you can get around it by having one in the back. Carl Hall, maybe that would suffice for,
Jimmy,
maybe just one bathroom.
Right. That's good.
want to read that?
And we haven't figured out yet, whether, we probably have water and a drain in those spaces, but they're not likely to get heavily,
You also have to be careful about winter, because you want to be able to drain them out, so
right.
you wouldn't have an issue with freezing.
Okay, how do we stand with DCR? The permit is still in the process of being reviewed?
We have a DCR permit?
Yeah, so, right now we're putting together a package, to meet the needs. So we're gonna be presenting both, temporary condition, traffic management, as well as permanent condition, which is the landscape and streetscape.
How many units total?
It's 127 in the Revere Beach Boulevard building and 73 in the smaller, so it's 200 units total.
It's two separate buildings. These festivals.
So your landscaping plan, as far as just showing tree pits with grates?
When we
There's
talked
no
to the
planters.
design review board, they were talking about a curbed tree planter, just to keep sand, as much
Yeah.
sand as possible out of it. So I think we're talking about a relatively short curb, but a curb around those trees.
Yeah, they wanted to see, instead of the tree grates here, to have the same condition as we have along Ocean Avenue. So it's just a 6-inch curb around that continuous planter area with a few trees in each planter. Just a healthier condition for the trees. And raises them up kind of out of that salt spray zone of the street.
It was the architects that told them to put them in tree grates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you have the same thing at some of the newer development down north on Ocean Avenue.
Yeah,
They
right.
do
Yeah.
condition.
Yeah, so that's the goal, to try to assimilate and make it all consistent. Okay, you want to go to the Ocean Ave building?
Sure. I mean, it's really pretty much a similar story. The one major difference between that building and the longer building, obviously it's much smaller, but we actually stepped the building back from the Seaside Lofts, recognizing that if you go to the second sheet, I think it's aerial, sorry, it's the fourth sheet. You can see the relationship between the building and the Surfside Lofts, as well as Atlantic Towers. And we felt that putting the building on the northern end of the site, where we maintain the zoning required setbacks, because we're a little bit tighter on some of the other sides that we brought to zoning board and gotten approval for that. It gave the building the best views, because now these views are actually looking over the parking across Elliott Circle. It also kept a lot more breathing space for Surfside. So feeling like not getting right on top of that building was important. We do have a roof deck there. It's going to be more or less, kind of a passive deck similar to the roof deck one of the roof decks that we have at 500 Ocean.
Now, treatment of that first floor garage, you have a much higher wall.
I actually don't have a higher wall. That wall is actually probably a little bit lower and steps down at the corner. This one, there are no occupied spaces in the garage, so we didn't have that 15-foot issue that we had in the in 21 Revere Beach. So it's a little bit lower. It's just 2 levels of garage. The benefit of 21 Revere is on Revere Beach Boulevard, that first level of garage is really, it's much more easier to hide that.
So what have you decided on for the treatment of that garage wall?
It's going to be similar to the bigger building. We haven't updated it in these drawings yet, but it would be a similar 2-story, split the elevations. Whether or not that screen, again, it's the perf screen or some other kind of screen at the upper level. Whether or not that dips down a little bit, we haven't quite finalized that.
Just to remind everybody, that building is in the floodplain, and so we can't have any occupiable spaces on the ground floor here. Unlike the Revere Boulevard building, which we're able to elevate off of Revere Boulevard.
Now, the parking spaces coming with these apartments, or are they gonna be separate?
They're with the apartments. The parking spaces are with the apartments.
Spaces in the apartment, and the parking facilities, are they coming with the units, or are they gonna be sold
That's
separate?
a requirement of our ZBA.
Yeah, you required that. From now on, they all have to be part of the lease.
So we had a problem on Ocean Avenue, they charged for them, no one bought them.
Yep,
Everyone's looking for
we've heard that.
Yeah.
What's the unit breakdown, even, this first speed?
In terms of the types of units,
2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom?
yeah, it's, I forget the exact numbers, but it's 25% 2 bedrooms, 50% 1 bedroom, and 25% studios. No 3 bedrooms.
Okay.
I have a breakdown here. It's 61 2-bedrooms, 25 studios, and 114 1-bedrooms. That's between the 2 buildings.
Yeah, we've
Total of
actually,
200 units.
since we did the initial breakdown, we were actually able to kind of get a little bit more of the 1 bedrooms versus the studios. So we pushed that a little bit and reduced the percentage of studios.
So you're gonna continue to work on the garage wall treatment for the second building on Ocean Avenue. We want to see what you come up with for that, for final treatment of that wall.
I think for the most part, Frank, the details are going to be very similar, if not the same. The idea is that these 2 buildings they're tied together. I believe there's even requirements that they be sold together. So the feeling is that the people in the Ocean Avenue building need to and should feel like they're connected with the other building. So it's not going to be like it's a completely separate expression there. There may be some variations just to keep the streetscape interesting, but it's not going to be, we're not going to value engineer it down to just an open garage over there.
Nevertheless, we just want to see the final because it's so important to the streetscape.
Understand?
And it sets-
Is it possible to create the order of conditions and have that as kind of coming back at some point in the future for final approval by you guys, just to kind of keep this rolling?
Yeah, that's how we did write it up. So the original site plan review letter indicated that, you have to come back to site plan review for your final design for that screening of the garages and your final landscape, streetscape plan, which you're still working on with
Right.
DCR.
I mean,
So we're
you know,
not
our
there.
approach to doing these things is we do them kind of hand in hand with the, obviously with the owner, but with the contracting team as well,
Yeah.
to make sure that whatever we're coming up with at this point, we're not going to document the whole thing and then find out that it's, you know, not achievable due to cost reasons. So you can imagine it's not a really simple, straightforward process where you draw something and immediately think that that's going to be the end condition.
Which is not fit for architects. No disrespect.
I hear you.
So there were a couple other engineering things we talked about.
Yep.
Aside from this. And Kate, you want to come up here? So the hydrant flow tests, have those been completed?
It has not.
Okay.
We can definitely get it done shortly.
All right. And we wanted an evaluation of that mini system, that sewer mini system, to see what the impact of the sewer flows from these two developments, how it would impact that system.
Yep, so we had sent the sewer flows to Nick,
Okay.
and I hadn't gotten a response from him. I'm not
He was
sure.
going to model those with
Yeah.
CDM in our model.
I could definitely follow up with him on that.
All right.
We have some current fire flows, I'm waiting for the hard copies to come back to me. We just did it for the old site for
The ho-
Blackie's place.
Oh, the hotel, yeah.
We did flows on both sides of the
How well
ocean.
is John?
They weren't too bad.
Yeah.
The exact numbers I can't give you off the top of my head. They were
Yeah.
just done as recent in the past month, so.
Yeah, our biggest concern here is the sewer line. It goes from a 24-inch to an 18-inch.
And that's shallow also.
Yeah, underneath the tracks, so part of the II money that we're gonna get from these developments has to go to upgrading that line into the tracks and all the way up Elliott Road. Okay, is there anything else you have to provide us with? That's it?
Construction. So we're progressing through the drawings right now. Best case scenario is we're moving dirt in December. Well, no, early site work, foundation probably starting in spring. Yeah.
So the bulk of the exterior material you're using is cementatious paneling,
Correct.
clapboard style.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are those black windows, David?
Those are black windows in this project, yes.
And use gray.
That's a dig at me. Okay, I think that's it for now until you come back with more updated plans on, after you meet with DCR and you've taken the comments from the architects as part of the design review board, and are those comments translated any of these designs, or are you guys kind of mulling those over and reviewing them and seeing how you want them?
We're actually working on our schematic design set right now, and that's where we're making the adjustments in the drawings.
Okay,
So,
all right,
So Frank, one last question, crosswalks.
yes,
I had a discussion with the abutter from the trustees at the Atlantic Towers.
yes.
Can we pull out a site plan to talk about what we wanted to do? And then I want to see if we can get to a point that works for everybody. Maybe it's even the
Yeah.
front page.
it's
Yeah,
actually-
yeah, I think
I think
it's-
there's one,
You can
there's
see it on here. It shows the two buildings.
if you go actually back in the set, there's a,
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, right here.
Right here. So what we wanted to do is we wanted that Ocean Avenue building to feel like it was part of the beach and on the beach. So we wanted to, in essence, build a boardwalk alongside our longer building adjacent to the Atlantic Towers.
and then have a crosswalk directly out, so then people who are exiting this building could walk directly to the beach and have a strong beach connection. We thought that was a positive. There's an existing crosswalk right now from Atlantic Towers to this area, which is noted on this plan right here. It's kind of right in front of the front door. And so Atlantic Towers has an easement for parking spaces within our building, but they also have additional spaces behind Surfside. A lot of the residents in this building are elderly, so having them potentially walk here to get to these spaces back here could be a challenge, and that was a concern of Atlantic Towers. So the proposal that came across us this morning was to potentially shift this crosswalk kind of midway between the existing and this one, so then it would be a little bit more equidistant for everybody. It's not ideal, it takes away our intention here. So what we're thinking of, and we wanted to address this with you, is there an ability to potentially move this crosswalk closer to Elliott Circle, keep ours here, and we can work with DCR to try to figure that out. So now the people who are coming to spaces here can walk this way and not be burdened by having to walk this way, but then people who have spaces in this garage can enter it through here.
Probably right here between these two entry drives. Because what's not great about moving this into the middle of the property is that you've got a garage exit here, and you've got the loading entrance right there, which won't get used too often, but people would come out of that turn and not see the crosswalk until they were actually turning. So keeping the crosswalk closer to that entrance into the loading makes more sense to us. Again, there's two driveway entrances there. Maybe this one could either shift to the middle of those two, or even a little bit farther down towards Elliott Circle.
Yeah, that seems problematic.
Just maybe a little, yeah.
Do we have any say in that, Frank, or is it all DCI?
It's, well, we do have some say. It's DCR's final decision, but, we can make our recommendations known. I do like the idea of this
Right.
connecting,
Yeah. So
but the abutters have a point. I mean, they have use of that parking area.
yeah, so I mean, this
I mean,
one is
it would-
okay, the spaces are here, the doors right here, but it's the
Yeah.
spaces that are here
Yeah.
that it becomes inconvenient going this way. So we recognize that as well too. We want to be as equitable as possible, but obviously our intent would be to do this. We want to try to figure out a way that works for everybody, including potentially enhancing the pedestrian experience right now for Surfside. Because right now Surfside is accessing the beach by coming out, going to this crosswalk, and then having to loop back and go back up here. So they're a little bit inconvenienced as well too. Yeah. So they're coming here to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
If there was a crosswalk here, they would have a more direct route to the beach, and then these residents could get to these parking spaces easier. I believe the parking spaces that are under easement are back here in this corner. So getting people from here to here in the most direct route is I think, the most desirable thing.
Yeah, the problem is the driveway for Seaside Lofts is right there too, so you have to bring it beyond that, south of that, which still makes it a long walk for those people to get over there and back. Why don't you and the abutter, sit down with that and decide on what's the most equitable plan for relocating that crosswalk, and we're open to any suggestions.
Well, to
There-
understand the location,
They're so close together.
They're close together,
That's okay.
You gotta just put that one,
It's only
the existing,
time it's
just
utilized
beyond
when
the
someone's
driveway.
across the street, so.
put it just
no
beyond the
reason not to
driveway.
make one.
That
You're not
breaks it
allowed
up a
people
little
there
bit.
now.
But they want to add a third one, because they want to add it a little further down.
I'm talking about this proposed one and leave this one. Maybe that's a crosswalk.
Or leave that one there
already. Right. So maybe just move this one over.
That's what they're talking about.
That's not a lot of, it's a few feet.
Well, just beyond the driveway, the entrance to the driveway, and spread them out a little bit.
Where's the present one, right about here?
Right here.
Yeah, I can see that, just kind of
Sort of right-
relationship to your
Right in the
building.
front entrance.
Right about here, yeah, off the front entrance. It's right off the front entrance to the building.
Yep.
So then the trustees said, okay, let's go halfway here. I don't know if that does any difference.
So to the chief's point is to leave it where it is
Yeah.
and add the other one, yeah, that's what we're saying. So Atlantic Tower still has use of that
But are you,
crosswalk.
are you fine with that?
Yeah, I'm
It's
fine
just the
with
abutter, I
Frank,
think,
if
Frank.
it's only within 10 feet, we can just have one. Within 20 feet, that ain't a walk.
Yeah, I don't know what the distance is between the
So
two.
we'll have to go down there and lay this out.
We're trying to put,
Probably one in each end of the building would work.
Yeah, they don't want them to.
Correct.
we're just trying to put it right here.
Right, so that's not a walk.
So why couldn't we locate the second one right here? Here's their entrance.
That's what I'm,
Beyond the existing one?
Yeah,
So
the
two
existing one's
proposed ones?
halfway now, I mean, how about this location? Unless that's where it is now.
No,
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a little
It's not.
over here.
Yeah, so I would recommend to bring it so we have two,
Yeah.
So keep the existing one and then just develop two new ones.
so we have two bump outs, basically.
right.
So it would be actually eliminating this one here.
Yeah.
But just shifting it over.
Shifting it
basically
over.
here to spread them apart a little
Yeah.
bit, which would be beneficial to them, because now it gets them.
It would be more
closer
beneficial.
together.
And gives them a bump out at
And
the,
it gives them a bump out for a shorter walk across as well, too.
And it provides a shorter walk for Seaside Lofts to get across too.
Yeah.
With this serves
Yeah, that's.
specifically your building.
Yeah.
If the DCR is fine with that, that's a good plan.
That works for us.
Okay,
I'll present that to the butter.
all right. Great.
Good job, David.
All right, thank you.
bring this back.
Yeah. I've got another one.
All right, that concludes the Site Plan Review Committee meeting for July 10th, 2018.